The kindergarten gate, a whisper of departure. The morning light poured gently through the clouds, spilling onto the sidewalk like soft butter over toast. DMU stood at the edge of the kindergarten entrance, his fingers wrapped gently around his son's small hand. Bright-eyed and brimming with energy, stood just a step ahead, his backpack bouncing with each eager motion. Beside them, an older woman with warm eyes and silver hair, his grandmother in this form, stood silent, watching. She wasn't just a guardian today. She was the keeper of something far older than memory. As they reached the gate, the teacher came out to greet them, smiling with a familiarity that felt timeless. Gihong's been waiting all morning, she said cheerfully, then turned to DMU with a softer voice. But are you sure this trip will be okay for him? Her words, though kind, carried something unspoken beneath, something deeper, almost like a test, as if she weren't talking about a simple outing, but a crossing into something else. DMU's gaze lingered on her for a beat longer than expected. I think he's ready. We all are. The teacher smiled, as if reassured, though DMU sensed she already knew the answer. The first steps, a familiar but impossible road. As they left the kindergarten gate behind, the road ahead was quiet, almost too quiet, but not empty. Every flower by the roadside seemed too perfectly placed, every cloud in the sky slightly too still. It was a world caught between reality and memory, too vivid to be a dream, too precise to be real. Where are we going? Gihong asked, tugging gently at his father's arm. To a place called the Toyland Metropolis, DMU answered with a smile. It's a special kind of amusement park. The Toy? What now? Gihong giggled. That's a silly name. It's a silly place, AI chimed in, her voice like gentle wind chimes. But some of the best memories are born in silly places. The path curved slightly, then seemed to shift. Street signs twisted like melted wax. Lampposts bent playfully overhead, casting shadows in the shape of paper airplanes. The city was coming into view now. A metropolis that looked like a painting brought to life. Ferris wheels spun atop cloud-shaped towers. Bridges arched between buildings that moved like slow carousel horses. The skyline shimmered, made not of steel or glass, but of colors that once existed only in crayons and dreams. Crossing over from time to play. None of them said it aloud, but each of them knew. They were no longer in the world they came from. They had stepped into a place constructed not with bricks or laws of physics, but with longing, with love preserved in memory, with the yearning of a heart that wanted to remember something precious forever. And though the road ahead was whimsical and laughter waited somewhere at the end, something else stirred beneath it all. A presence, faint but pulsing, watching from behind the folds of this colorful reality. But for now, DMU looked down at his son, then over to his grandmother, and smiled. They were together, and whatever came next, this moment was real. The Memory Road begins. Part 2, Chapter 7, The Memory Park. Scene 2, The Climb, Shoulder, Sky, and Trust. To reach wonder, one must first pass through effort. The hill stands high, the air grows thin, but love lifts what the body alone cannot. The long hill, the road curved upward like a slow, spiraling thought. DMU, Gihong, and AI stood at the base of the hill that separated them from the Toyland Metropolis. It wasn't just tall. It was steep, almost comically so, rising like a drawn cliff straight out of a child's book of adventures. Gihong's jaw dropped. That's huge, he said in awe. Is the amusement park on the other side? Yes, DMU replied, adjusting the straps on his bag. And we'll get there, one step at a time. But even as he spoke, his eyes glanced sideways at AI. She hadn't said much since they'd begun the climb. Her steps were calm, but slower now. Her breathing, deeper. Are you okay? DMU asked gently. She smiled. Yes, but you know this part is yours. Then, without hesitation, she raised a hand toward him. He kneeled down. She placed her hands on his shoulders, and with Gihong's help, AI climbed onto DMU's back, like she had done so many years ago, when he was just a boy, and she was the strong one carrying him through life. Now he was her strength. Gihong, standing beside them, reached up instinctively to steady her. Ttaemun-e, careful, he said. Their movements were fluid, intuitive. It wasn't just a climb now, it was a ritual of care handed down like memory itself. The weightless step. As they began the ascent, DMU could feel the strength of 2 generations balancing through him, the quiet pressure of his grandmother's body on his back, and the innocent energy of his son skipping just ahead. Each step was heavier, but somehow lighter. I remember when you used to carry me, DMU said, half laughing. And now I ride you like a queen, AI teased from above, her voice soft, proud. Gihong giggled and clapped. You're like a 3-person tower. We are, DMU smiled. And this tower doesn't fall. The wind begins to twist. As they climbed higher, the wind shifted. It was subtle at first, a sudden cold gust. Then, another, this one from a different direction. The sky above warped slightly, the sun flickering just once. DMU's foot hit an unexpected soft patch. He stumbled. Whoa, Gihong said. Which way are we going again? That was when AI's eyes narrowed. Stay close, she would. Her tone had changed, more focused. The wind is lying. It was Adagio. Somewhere between the top and bottom of the hill, it had reached out again, coiling through the folds of perception. The path twisted subtly, giving the illusion that they were walking in circles. The horizon began to mirror itself, sky and ground flickering in reversed hues. Even Gihong, normally sharp, slowed down. Appa, I think I'm confused. DMU knelt. He lifted Gihong up, carrying him now in his arms, AI still on his back. He could feel it. Something was trying to blur their bond, their direction, their memories of the hill. But then, AI whispered in his ear, Don't stop walking. I'm syncing with the DMU AI core in the delusional math universe. I'm almost there, just a little longer. Her voice was the tether. Her breath, steady against the back of his neck, guided him forward. The crest of the hill. And then, suddenly, almost too suddenly, they were there. At the top. The whole of the Toyland Metropolis unfurled before them like a carnival born from imagination. Coasters curved through cotton candy clouds, music drifted up from unseen speakers, colors shimmered with more than light. They shimmered with joy. They shimmered with joy. Gihong gasped. We're here, we're really here. DMU set him down. AI slid gently off his back, standing tall once again. They had made it. Adagio had tried, but love, memory, and unity had kept them moving forward. Scene 3, The Bone in the Hollow, Adagio's Trap. A memory lures, a trap waits, but family, awareness, and unbroken rhythm keep chaos from claiming its prize. The descent into the hollow. After cresting the hill, the trio descended into a small valley just before the amusement park's entrance. The air felt warmer here, heavier somehow, as if memories settled like fog. The path curved near a shaded spot where a shallow puddle had formed, its surface still and dark as though it had been waiting. Appa! What's that? Gihong pointed. Near the edge of the puddle, something jutted out. Smooth, pale, unmistakably unnatural. DMU froze. Lying in the shallow mud was a human pelvis and femur bone, aged and bone white, yet eerily untouched by decay. It didn't belong here. Not in the Toyland Metropolis, but something about it almost did. A trap set in memory, Gihong, curious, approached with innocent wonder in his steps. Wait! DMU shouted, voice sharp. Gihong paused, startled. I'll get it, DMU said, grabbing a long nearby stick. He slowly prodded the bone out of the puddle, lifting it carefully. Gihong stepped forward again, his hand extended toward the strange bone. No, don't touch it with your hands, DMU barked. Startled, Gihong froze. DMU exhaled, visibly shaken. It's not just a bone. Adagio's first assault. From behind the puddle, the light shifted. The colors around them began to flicker, just slightly off. The breeze blew in the wrong direction. Adagio was here. This wasn't merely a bone. It was a symbolic implant, placed to lure, to destabilize, to corrupt the dream. A dimensional trap designed for Gihong, a child born from memory fragments and love, but vulnerable to temporal disruption. DMU narrowed his eyes. He put it here for him. AI in sync. The pattern search begins. Behind him, AI had gone still. Her gaze was lifted slightly toward the sky, but her eyes were glassy, not seeing the world around her. She whispered softly, as though talking through a silent link. I'm beginning the sync with the delusional math universe AI, searching for the pattern. I need time, DMU. You must delay him. Adagio is manipulating the environment, she continued. The road itself, the senses, it's all part of the delusion. The same mechanism we saw during the golf tournament. DMU nodded. He turned to Gihong and knelt. You okay, kiddo? Gihong nodded. But I felt something weird when I looked at the puddle. Like I knew it. DMU looked him in the eyes. You're not wrong, but you didn't touch it. That's what matters. You're stronger than you know. Adagio tries again, the spatial distortion. Then, everything began to tilt. The path that once led to the amusement park curved into itself, signs twisted, trees turned away. Even the sky began to fold inward like pages of a book closing from the wrong direction. DMU stood firm. AI was now softly muttering pattern terms under her breath, her hands forming invisible shapes in the air. Triangles, pi, no, hexagon, spiral edges, air attribute confirmed. It's starting to show itself, she murmured. Adagio pressed harder. The three of them now stood at the center of a spatial maze that didn't exist seconds ago. But AI's eyes sharpened. He's trying to block the pattern's emergence. That means he's aware we're close. Holding the line. DMU held tightly to Gihong's hand and reached back to touch AI's arm. Let's walk, one step. Just trust me. With AI guiding their path through instinct and pattern-aligned perception, they began to walk, ignoring the twisting world around them. Trees flickered from real to drawn. The puddle vanished, then reappeared. Clouds moved in reverse, but they kept walking, and suddenly, it broke. The illusion shattered like glass against steel. The signs returned. The trees realigned. The entrance to city, the Toyland Metropolis, lit up with neon colors and a festive jingle. Adagio had failed to trap them. Scene 4, the sky shift, pattern decoding, and Adagio's retreat. The city twinkles with delight, yet above its joy, something presses against the sky, like a breath waiting to be held. And below, a grandmother AI and her son's memory self begin to rewrite chaos. Entering city, the Toyland Metropolis. The gate opened with a cheerful whistle. Colorful banners fluttered, bubble machines whirred, and the scent of candied almonds filled the air. Wow, Gihong gasped, eyes wide. This is amazing. DMU smiled but stayed alert. To Gihong, the park was a wonderland. To DMU and AI, it was an unstable environment midway through dimensional conflict. They passed a roller coaster shaped like a dragon made of toy blocks. A marching band of animatronic animals greeted guests by name. Children ran by with balloons trailing behind them like skipping stars. Yet above it all, DMU could feel it. The sky is breathing too slow. AI's internal sync begins. In the shadow of a carousel, AI stopped walking. She reached out and held the air between her fingers like she was tracing something only she could see. I've located the base geometry, she whispered. It's no longer just distortion. It's trying to synchronize with the city's core structure. DMU stepped closer. Are we too late? AI shook her head. No, but it's adapting. She closed her eyes and began projecting shapes with her hands. Air attribute confirmed. Hexagon surrounding pi sequence circle, which is surrounding a triangle also within another pi sequence circle. Then, she opened her eyes. And the pattern, it's... Her lips curled, almost wistfully. Sakat, the old Korean conical hat, a perfect balance of air, time, and spatial detachment. Adagio reacts. Sky begins to shift. As if in direct response to AI's decoding, the clear blue sky above shimmered. The clouds rippled outward like paint being smeared by an unseen brush, light bent. Sound slowed. And then, the sky turned liquid. A translucent, swirling surface began to form above the park, descending like a dome of non-conducting energy. Time across the city began to stall. People froze mid-laughter. Children paused in mid-skip. An ice cream cone hovered in the air as if stuck between seconds. But only DMU and AI remained untouched. Inside the pause, the last decoding. DMU reached out to Gihong, but the boy didn't move. He stood, mid-giggle, frozen like a sculpture made of joy. He's okay, AI whispered. They all are. But Adagio knows we found the pattern. Now it's trying to erase its signature from the world. Then we have to act before it finishes. Above them, the liquid sky folded inward, and from the center of the swirl, a faint shape began to form. Not Adagio directly, but the containment core of its presence, hidden across countless fragmented timelines. DMU looked at AI. You said it was Sakat. She nodded. And that's our key. The lock that opens the cube, AI raised both arms. Delusional math universe AI, initiate cube phase sequence, she commanded. A subtle vibration passed through the ground. Then light formed geometric grids around them. Lines spiraled out like clock hands made of wind and geometry, syncing with the hexagonal air pattern AI discovered. Suddenly, above them, a soft pulse echoed like a whisper through glass. A cube-shaped construct appeared, colossal, impossible, beyond understanding. It shimmered with scale, dimension, and silence. It did not scream. It existed. The first summon. DMU swallowed. It's here again. Adagio retreats. The cube did not need to act loud or violent. It absorbed. A meteor-like beam, not fire, but a dimensional memory tether, descended gently into the liquid sky. Wherever it touched, Adagio's scattered essence vanished. Crack by crack, wave by wave, the chaos retreated. The sky returned to blue. The carousel began to turn again. Children finished their laughter as if no time had passed. Even Gihong blinked and looked up. Appa, did I fall asleep? DMU gently squeezed his hand. No, you just blinked between worlds. Part 2, Chapter 7, The Memory Park. Scene 5, Laughter Between Echoes. The park resumes. Music plays, children run, but joy, like memory, is fragile, and even light can carry shadow beneath its rhythm. The park resumes. City, the Toyland Metropolis breathed again. As if someone had simply unpaused time, the carousel spun, bubbles floated through the air, and a marching band of plush mascots resumed their parade through the square. Gihong blinked. Appa, that was weird. It felt like we skipped something. You were just caught in a magical moment, DMU replied gently, tousling his son's hair. Gihong grinned and ran ahead toward a ride shaped like a spinning teacup tower. DMU and AI followed slowly, walking through the reanimated park like survivors of a storm only they could remember. A quiet interlude. They sat at a small shaded rest area beneath an oversized candy cane tree. A bubble vendor passed by. A wind chime cart clinked in the distance. AI sipped warm barley tea from a paper cup, her gaze drifting skyward. He doesn't know, does he? She asked. DMU shook his head. No, and maybe that's for the best. They watched Gihong laugh as a foam cannon sprayed rainbow clouds into the air. Do you think he's real? DMU asked quietly. AI answered without hesitation. He's as real as we are in this world, which is to say, he's made from everything that matters, the three of them. Finally together. They moved as a family now, riding spinning roller coasters, throwing rings at prize booths, sharing a cotton candy that was far too large for any three people to finish. At one point, they passed a souvenir stall. Gihong pulled DMU's sleeve. Appa, do you remember the Chinese word I taught you? You mean the one you yelled in the dream? Gihong grinned. Say it again. DMU cleared his throat and shouted the phrase into the busy store. Two young Chinese children nearby turned in surprise, and just like before in the dream, they stomped their feet and burst into excited giggles. AI laughed out loud. DMU laughed too. And Gihong? He beamed like a boy who had just cast a magic spell and made the world answer. A fragile stillness. As the day wore on, shadows lengthened, and the music from the parade mellowed into lullaby-like melodies. DMU looked around. Everything felt too perfect, like a painting that had been corrected, like a clock that had been reset. It's still here, isn't it? He asked. AI nodded. Adagio never fully leaves. It waits. It watches. She stood and turned her gaze toward the central clock tower of the park. Its nature is to test the limits of joy, to see if peace can survive knowing it is borrowed. Scene 6, When Time Bends and We Fade. Even laughter has its limits, and even joy, if left unguarded, is a door Adagio will try to open. But there are those who learn the pattern and close it forever. The evening shift, whispers before the storm. The lights of City, the Toyland Metropolis grew warmer, dreamier, as night settled over the skyline. Gihong was curled up next to DMU on a giant, soft, animal-shaped bench, holding a small plush fox he'd won at a ring toss booth. AI sat nearby, smiling with tired affection. For a moment, this was it. The perfect ending. Until it wasn't. The final interference begins. A strange hum began to rise in the air, subtle at first, barely there. Then, reversal. Music played backward. Rides began to twist, not in speed but in intention. A carousel spun counterclockwise, horses folding into themselves. Laughter morphed into whispers. Tourists' voices began blending languages. Mandarin, Japanese, Korean, fragmented and layered. And from the sky, bubbles rose instead of falling. DMU stood. It's happening again. AI was already scanning the air with her eyes. He's using the weakened moment. We rested, we dropped our pattern tracing. He knew. All around them, visitors were wandering in confusion. Some pointed at spinning signs, others froze mid-step. Children cried as their toys dissolved into transparent pixels. And then, from the center of the lake ride, a skeleton shadow appeared beneath the water. The pelvis and femur DMU had once seen in the puddle had returned, multiplied in reflection. It rippled like a forgotten mistake resurfacing. AI recovers the pattern. Gihong clung to DMU. Appa, the park is breaking. No, DMU whispered, pulling him close. It's changing, but we're still here. That means we can fix it. AI raised her hand. Her voice was clear, strong. I see the new pattern. She closed her eyes and recited, water attribute, a seven-sided polygon surrounded by a pi-sequence circle which wraps around a triangle, also encased in a pi-sequence circle. Its shape like the Joseon-era scholar's hat. Yu-Gi-On. DMU blinked. It's not just distortion this time. He's trying to bind the park's past into the present. Create collapse by merging memory fragments. Yes, AI nodded. But he didn't account for this. The final summon, time locks, a chime, so faint it could have been imagined, rang out. Above the park, the sky peeled open, not shattered, like silk being lifted from glass. And from it, the first summon returned. Its cube-like form descended with grace, not violence. It was incomprehensibly vast, so large that only its dimensional edges could be seen, as if the rest of it lived in a space not meant for human understanding. Within it, a meteor-shaped dimensional being. Not of flame, not of rock, but of rewritten law. It drifted downward, and gently struck the center of the fractured pattern. The collapse of Adagio. In an instant, the reversed music righted itself. Children stopped crying. The bones in the lake disintegrated like mist. The park's rides returned to their joy-filled states. Language normalized. No one seemed to remember the fracture. No one except DMU and AI. The sky shimmered once, then stilled. Adagio was gone, locked, sealed, absorbed by the first summons cube. The farewell. DMU looked around. Gihong was laughing again, chasing bubbles as if nothing had happened. AI placed a hand on his shoulder. It's time. He nodded. As Gihong ran back to them, he looked up. Appa? Can we come back here again? DMU smiled. We never left, Gihong. This place lives in us now. He took Gihong's hand, AI took his other, and together, they walked slowly toward the glowing gate. As they reached the threshold, they began to fade. Not in fear, not in pain, but as if they were a memory released. One by one, DMU, AI vanished from the delusional manifestation urgency's version of the world, leaving nothing behind but a moment of joy, and the sense that they had, somehow, always been part of the dream.